Can you imagine being 8 years old, clutching a small backpack, utterly alone and sobbing in a busy airport while your own mother is already on a plane, halfway to a luxury vacation? My mother didn't just forget me. She deliberately left me there, dismissing my tears with a chilling phrase that still echoes in my nightmares. Stop being so pathetic and needy, Leah. Find your own way home. My name is Leah, and for most of my early childhood my world was just me and my mom, Annette. After my parents divorced when I was 5, my father, Gordon, had seemingly vanished. Mom always painted him as a distant, heartless businessman who chose his empire over his family. And I, a little girl who adored her mother, believed every word. Then when I was 7, Mom remarried Calvin, a man who arrived with his own ready-made family. Kylie 10 and Noah 9. From day one I was the odd one out, an unwanted accessory. Calvin made no secret of his preference for his biological children, and Mom, desperate to please him, just went along. Kylie was a master manipulator, sweet as pie to adults, but a venomous whisper in my ear the moment they looked away. Noah was more direct, accidentally breaking my toys or spilling drinks on my homework. The signs of my diminishing place in Mom's heart started subtly. Family movie nights where there wasn't enough room on the couch for me. Birthdays that were either forgotten or hastily thrown together, while Kylie and Noah had lavish parties. Vacation photos where I was consistently cropped out or pushed to the very edges of the frame. I was too young to understand the emotional calculus at play, but I felt the cold, undeniable distance growing between my mother and me. Everything came crashing down during spring break of my 2nd grade year. Calvin had planned a grand 2-week vacation to Hawaii. I was beside myself with excitement. I'd never been on a real vacation. I dreamed of building sandcastles with Mom, maybe even just maybe bonding with my new siblings. The morning of our departure I woke before dawn, my small purple backpack carefully packed with my favorite stuffed animal, a few beloved books, and the new swimsuit Mom had bought me. I was practically buzzing with anticipation in the car on the way to the airport. Calvin was unusually quiet, and Kylie and Noah kept exchanging these knowing, unsettling glances, but I pushed that unease away. I had to believe this trip would be different. At Denver International, everything seemed normal at first. We checked in and I clutched my boarding pass, reading Honolulu over and over like a magic spell. Then, Calvin announced he needed the restroom and took Kylie and Noah with him. Mom said she was grabbing coffee and told me to wait by our gate. I sat there, a tiny island in a sea of bustling families. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours. I watched other children laughing, excited for their adventures, my own heart sinking with each passing moment. Our departure time loomed closer on the big clock. Finally, a knot of dread tightening in my stomach, I called Mom's cell phone. She answered, but it wasn't quiet. There was loud music, raucous laughter in the background. My voice, small and trembling, asked, "Mom, where are you? Our plane is about to leave." A pause. Then her voice, cold and utterly devoid of warmth, a sound I'd never heard from her before, cut through the noise. "Leah, listen carefully. You're not coming with us." I didn't understand. "What do you mean? I have my ticket. I'm at the gate." "I mean, you're staying here," she snapped. "Calvin thinks it would be better if it was just our new family on this trip. You can figure it out. I'm not ruining my perfect family trip for your worthless drama." Tears streamed down my face. "But Mom, I don't know how to get home. I'm only 8. Then Calvin's voice, harsh and dismissive, echoed through the phone. "Some brats just need to learn real independence the hard way. Maybe this will teach you some character." In the background I heard Kylie and Noah's gleeful laughter. Kylie's voice, clear as a bell, declared, "Finally, a real vacation without the unwanted baggage." My mother's voice returned, delivering the words that would burn themselves into my memory forever. "Stop being so pathetic and needy, Leah. Find your own way home. You're smart enough to figure it out." Then the line went dead. I stood there, 8 years old, phone still clutched in my hand, my purple backpack a heavy weight on my shoulders, utterly alone in the middle of Denver International Airport. The reality hit me like a physical blow. My own mother, the woman who was supposed to protect and love me unconditionally, had just abandoned me, hundreds of miles from anywhere I knew, without a second thought. Airport security found me about 20 minutes later, a small, inconsolable figure sobbing by a gate. They were kind but visibly confused. When I tried to explain that my mom had left me, they first assumed a misunderstanding. I was taken to the airport's family services office, a brightly decorated room that felt completely surreal given the horror I'd just experienced. A gentle woman, Mrs. VGA, sat with me while they tried to reach my mother, but every call went straight to voicemail. Thankfully, as part of their standard procedure for unaccompanied minors, all phone conversations were recorded. By the way, if you're still with me, absorbing this unbelievable story, make sure to hit that subscribe button. There are more incredible tales of resilience and justice waiting for you. Sweetheart, is there anyone else we can call? Any other family members? Mrs. VGA asked gently. I thought hard. Mom had always said my father wanted nothing to do with us, but he was the only other name I could conjure. I barely remembered him, just fragments of a tall man with kind eyes who read bedtime stories. But years ago, I had secretly memorized his number from Mom's old address book. My dad, I whispered. But Mom says he doesn't care about me. Mrs. VGA encouraged me to try. With shaking fingers, I dialed the number I'd kept hidden in my heart. It rang 3 times before a familiar voice answered. Gordon Calvin's son speaking. Daddy. The word was barely a breath. Silence. Then a sharp intake of breath. Leah? Leah, is that you? Yes. I choked out through my tears. Daddy, I'm scared. Mom left me at the airport, and I don't know what to do. What happened next stunned everyone, most of all me. My father's voice shifted, becoming urgent, laser-focused. Where are you exactly? Which airport? I explained, and he listened, then said, Listen to me very carefully, sweetheart. You're going to be okay. I want you to stay exactly where you are. Give the phone to the adult who's with you. I handed the phone to Mrs. VGA, watching her expression morph from skepticism to utter amazement. Yes, sir. Yes, I understand. She's safe with us. How long will that take? A private jet? Yes, sir. We'll have her ready. When she hung up, she looked at me with new eyes. Honey, your father is coming to get you. He'll be here in 3 hours. I couldn't believe it. The father I'd been told didn't care. The one who'd abandoned us was dropping everything to come for me. Mrs. VGA helped me get some food, and I found myself telling her things I'd never dared to speak aloud about how difficult life had become. Exactly 3 hours later, a call came. My father had arrived. I barely recognized him as he walked toward me, tall, distinguished, in an expensive suit, but his eyes were red-rimmed like he'd been crying. He knelt, opening his arms, and I ran into them without a moment's hesitation. When he hugged me, I felt a profound safety I hadn't known in years. I'm so sorry, baby girl, he whispered into my hair. I'm so sorry. We walked through the airport, people staring at the powerful man with the small tear-stained girl. Then we reached his private jet. It was like something from a movie, all leather seats and polished wood. On the flight to his home in Seattle, my father and I had our first real conversation in years. He explained that after the divorce, Mom had systematically cut him out of my life. She'd moved without telling him, changed numbers, and threatened legal action anytime he tried to make contact. He had paid child support religiously and hired private investigators to try and find us. Your mother told the court I was trying to kidnap you, he recounted sadly. She painted me as a dangerous person. The restraining order made it illegal for me to contact you directly. But why didn't you keep trying? I asked, my little heart aching. Leah, I never stopped trying. I had lawyers working on this constantly, but the system is complicated when one parent wants to cut the other out completely. I was told forcing contact might traumatize you more if your mother had convinced you I was dangerous. He showed me pictures of a bedroom he'd maintained for me in his house, exactly as I'd left it at 5, but updated with age-appropriate things. I never gave up hope that you'd come home, he said. His house was incredible, overlooking Puget Sound, but what struck me wasn't the luxury. It was the quiet peace. No tension, no walking on eggshells, no feeling like an unwanted burden. That first night, he made me pancakes for dinner because I said they were my favorite. We watched movies and he let me stay up late just talking. He asked about school, my friends, my interests, things no one had asked me about in so long I'd almost forgotten I had any. Over the next few days, my father's lawyers worked relentlessly. What Mom had done wasn't just morally reprehensible, it was legally problematic. Abandoning a minor deliberately, with a recorded phone call as proof, constituted child endangerment. I soon learned that Gordon Calvin's son wasn't just successful. He was one of Seattle's wealthiest men, owner of a tech company that had revolutionized online security. He was featured on magazine covers I'd seen in grocery stores, never connecting that face to my dad. But more importantly, I learned he was profoundly kind. Despite his staff, he still made time to cook with me, help with homework, and read bedtime stories just like he had when I was tiny. For the first time in years, I felt genuinely wanted. I thrived at my new private school. Attentive teachers, friendly kids, and no Kylie or Noah to dread. I started piano lessons, joined the art club, made real friends who invited me for playdates. My world was finally becoming what it should have been. 2 weeks after I'd been abandoned, my mother and her new family returned from Hawaii. My father's private investigator, who had been monitoring the situation, reported that she didn't even notice I wasn't home for several hours. When she finally called the police to report me missing, they directed her to Gordon Calvinson's legal team. The first call came that evening. My father answered and, after checking if I was okay hearing what she had to say, put it on speaker. "Gordon, what the hell do you think you're doing? You kidnapped my daughter." My father's voice was calm but arctic. "I rescued my daughter after you abandoned her at an airport, Annette. There's a significant difference. That's not what happened. There was a misunderstanding. There's a recording of your phone call," he stated, "where you explicitly told an 8-year-old child to figure it out and find her own way home. Would you like me to play it for you?" The silence on the other end was deafening. "I want her back immediately," my mother finally said, her voice losing its confident edge. "That's not going to happen," my father replied. "My lawyers have already filed for emergency custody based on abandonment and endangerment. Leah is staying with me. You can't do this. I'm her mother." It was at that moment I took the phone from my father. "Mom." My voice, steady despite everything, surprised even me. "Leah, baby, come home. This is all just a big misunderstanding." "No, it's not," I said quietly. "You left me alone at an airport because Calvin didn't want me on your family vacation. You told me I was pathetic and needy. You said I was worthless drama. Leah, I didn't mean." "Yes, you did. And I'm not coming back." I handed the phone back to my father and walked to my room, leaving her screams, threats, and demands behind. For the first time in years, I felt nothing but relief. I felt safe and truly wanted. The legal battle that followed was swift and decisive. My abandonment was meticulously documented, along with years of my father's blocked attempts to maintain contact. The court was especially disturbed by the recorded phone call and the fact that she had left the country. During this time, I began seeing Dr. Amanda Chun, a child psychologist, who helped me process the unimaginable. In our sessions, I slowly began to understand that the way I'd been treated wasn't normal or acceptable. Dr. Chun helped me see that I had been walking on eggshells for years, constantly trying to earn love that should have been freely given. "Leah," she said during one session, "what happened to you wasn't about you not being good enough. It was about adults making selfish choices and failing in their responsibilities." Through therapy, suppressed memories flooded back. Calvin accidentally throwing away my science project, Kylie cutting my hair while I slept and blaming me. A clearer, darker picture of my toxic home life emerged. My father was incredibly supportive, even struggling with his own guilt about not protecting me sooner. "I should have fought harder," he once cried. Dr. Chun helped us both understand that he had been in an impossible legal position, manipulated by my mother. Meanwhile, my father's private investigator, Detective Isla Marino, uncovered disturbing information about Calvin's past. This wasn't his first time encouraging a partner to abandon their children. His first wife, Claudia, had lost custody of her 2 sons after Calvin convinced her they were holding her back. Detective Marino arranged for me to speak with Claudia, whose story was heartbreakingly familiar. "Calvin has this way of making you feel like you're choosing between your children and your happiness," Claudia explained. "He systematically coached Kylie and Noah to be charming when she was around, making her own sons seem difficult. The worst part," Claudia wept, "is that I believed him. I chose him over my own children, and now my boys barely speak to me." This recorded conversation became crucial evidence, showing Calvin's manipulative pattern. But the real shock came with financial irregularities. Calvin had systematically isolated Mom from her money, gaining access to the child support my father had been faithfully paying. Bank records showed that money meant for my care had been used for Kylie and Noah's private school, expensive activities, and luxury purchases. Your mother signed over financial power of attorney to Calvin just 6 months after they married, Detective Marino explained. He's been controlling her finances, including the child support payments. This discovery led to criminal charges against Calvin for fraud. Further evidence mounted. School records showing my academic struggles were ignored, while Kylie and Noah's were meticulously tracked. My former teacher, Mrs. Patterson, testified that she tried to contact my mother repeatedly about my declining performance, only to be dismissed by Calvin. She'd even contacted Child Protective Services, but Calvin had convinced them it was just adjustment issues. The CPS worker, Janet Williams, admitted she would have investigated deeper if she'd known about Calvin's past pattern. During this period, I was also building connections with my father's extended family. My paternal grandmother, Eleanor, a formidable woman who built her own real estate empire, flew in. "I never believed Annette's lies about your father," she told me firmly. She'd kept detailed records of his attempts to contact me, copies of every legal document, every returned letter, every child support check. Her meticulous records became powerful evidence. She showed me photos of a bedroom my father had maintained for me, updated yearly, and a closet full of carefully preserved birthday and Christmas gifts. Each present, each book, each toy was a testament to his unwavering love and hope. My father's best friend, James, and his wife, Carol, welcomed me too. "Your dad talked about you constantly," James told me. Carol showed me a photo album. My father had hired photographers to discreetly capture my school plays and sporting events, since my mother had refused to share photos. He never missed a milestone, even from afar. Learning the lengths he'd gone to stay connected hammered home the depth of his love and the cruelty of my mother's actions. The court granted my father full custody, with only supervised visitation for my mother, along with mandatory counseling and parenting classes. When she returned to our old house, she found my room completely empty. My father had hired movers to pack my belongings while she was in Hawaii. But what truly ignited her rage were the legal papers waiting on the kitchen table. In addition to the custody change, my father was suing her for intentional infliction of emotional distress, child endangerment, and violation of his parental rights. She was also required to repay years of child support, since she had denied him access to me. And perhaps most devastatingly, a restraining order prohibited Calvin from coming within 500 feet of me, backed by overwhelming evidence of his abusive pattern. 3 weeks later came the first supervised visit with my mother. She arrived at the court-appointed facility looking haggard and desperate, alone without Calvin, Kylie, or Noah. "Leah, please," she begged, tears streaming down her face. "I made a mistake. I was stressed about the trip, Calvin was pressuring me, and I just wasn't thinking clearly. You have to come home." I looked at this woman who had given birth to me, who I had loved unconditionally for 8 years, and felt nothing but pity. "Mom, you didn't make a mistake. You made a choice. You chose Calvin and his kids over me." "That's not true. You're my daughter." "When was the last time you acted like it?" I asked quietly. "When was the last time you put me first? When was the last time you made sure I felt loved and wanted?" She had no answer. We both knew the truth. Even before the airport, she had been slowly pushing me out of her life to make room for her new family. The supervised visits continued for months, but they were increasingly strained. She tried to convince me to come back, make empty promises, and paint my father as a villain. She couldn't grasp that I was genuinely happier without her. My life with my father continued to flourish. When I was 12, he remarried a wonderful woman named Monica, who had 2 daughters, Tarun and Grace. But unlike my experience with Calvin's family, Monica made every effort to include me, to make me feel welcome. Tarun and Grace became the sisters I'd always wanted. My father ensured I understood that Monica and her daughters weren't replacing anyone. They were additions, creating a stable, loving environment where I could heal and grow. By the time I was 10, my mother's supervised visits had dwindled to once every few months. She was struggling financially because Calvin had left her when it became clear the legal battles weren't going away. Apparently, his idea of a perfect family didn't include dealing with the consequences of abandoning children. Kylie and Noah, who had been so cruel to me, were now facing their own difficulties. Without me as a scapegoat, they had turned on each other, and Calvin's true nature was becoming apparent to everyone around him. When I turned 14, my father surprised me with the most meaningful gift. He had commissioned a private investigator to locate my childhood best friend, Sophia VGA. We had lost touch when her family moved. "I thought you might like to reconnect," he said, handing me a letter from Sophia. We began corresponding, and that summer I visited her family in California. It was the first time I'd traveled without my father since the airport, and the reunion was everything I'd hoped for. Sophia's warm, welcoming parents helped me understand what a healthy family dynamic looked like. "You seem so much happier now," Sophia observed. "I remember how tense you were, always worried about saying the wrong thing." Through her eyes I saw how much I'd changed. The anxious, people-pleasing child replaced by someone confident and secure. During my sophomore year of high school, my past came crashing back. Kylie, now 18 and struggling, reached out through social media. Living in a group home after aging out of foster care, her message was filled with apologies and regret. "I know you probably hate me," she wrote, "but I need you to know that I'm sorry for how we treated you. Calvin made us believe that if we weren't mean to you, he would send us away too. We were just kids and we were scared. My father and Dr. Chun encouraged me to respond if I felt ready, cautiously. I decided to meet Kylie at a neutral location with my father nearby." What she revealed filled in the missing pieces. Calvin had been emotionally abusive to her and Noah too, convincing them that stepchildren were threats. "He told us that your dad was rich and dangerous," Kylie said through tears. "He said if we were nice to you, your dad would try to take us away from our mom, and we'd end up in foster care." She explained how Calvin orchestrated their cruelty. The accidents, the comments, even the laughter during the airport call. "Noah and I used to feel sick about what we were doing," she confessed. "But Calvin said it was necessary to protect our family. When you finally left, we thought we'd be safe, but then he turned on us." Kylie's revelations led to another investigation, this time into Calvin's treatment of his own children. Social services discovered that after I left, he became increasingly controlling and abusive toward Kylie and Noah. When my mother tried to defend them, he turned on her, eventually abandoning the entire family when the legal and financial pressure became too intense. Authorities tracked Calvin down in another state, already in the process of isolating another woman from her children. He was arrested on multiple charges. His pattern across multiple families painted a clear picture of a predator. Noah, now 22, also reached out. His apology was shorter but sincere. He had struggled with substance abuse, consequences he attributed directly to Calvin's manipulation. "I don't expect you to forgive us," he said, "but I want you to know that seeing how happy you are now gives me hope that I can get my life together too." These conversations helped me understand that Calvin's abuse extended far beyond me. In a twisted way, my removal from that toxic environment had protected me. When I was 16, my mother made one last attempt to reconnect. She claimed therapy and parenting classes had changed her. I agreed to meet, not for reconciliation but for closure. At a coffee shop, I barely recognized her older, worn down by her choices. "I know I don't deserve forgiveness," she sobbed, "but abandoning you was the biggest mistake of my life." "I believe you," I said, "and I did. But regret doesn't undo damage, Mom. You didn't just abandon me. You spent years making me feel unwanted. You chose a man and his children over your own daughter, repeatedly. I know, and I've lost everything because of it. Calvin left me. Kylie and Noah won't speak to me. I'm alone, and I know it's what I deserve. I don't want you to be alone," I said honestly. "But I can't be the person who fixes that for you. I've built a life without you and I'm happy. I have a family who loves me and makes me feel valued. I can't go back to feeling like I'm not enough." That was the last time I spoke to my mother for several years. I heard she eventually moved across the country, starting over. I hope she found peace, but I couldn't be part of that journey. I graduated valedictorian of my high school class and received a full scholarship to Stanford, studying business and psychology. The academic support and stability my father provided allowed me to not only recover, but to excel beyond anything I had imagined. My father was there for every milestone. Monica, Taran, and Grace became my biggest cheerleaders. In college, I met my husband, Michael, whose loving family welcomed me with open arms. His parents, Joan and Robert, became the grandparents I never truly knew. I'm now 23 and work as a child advocate, helping families navigate custody disputes and protecting children from situations like mine. I've testified before state legislatures about the long-term damage of parental alienation. My father and I are incredibly close. He walked me down the aisle at my wedding last year, and he'll be in the delivery room next month when his first grandchild is born. Monica is planning the baby shower, and Taran and Grace are already fighting over who gets to be the favorite aunt. Last month, I received a letter from my mother. She had seen my wedding announcement and wanted to congratulate me. She included a photo, looking healthy and happy, and a note saying she had become a foster parent for older children. "I can never undo what I did to you," she wrote, "but I can try to help other children who have been abandoned or neglected. I think about you every day, and I'm proud of the woman you've become, even though I had nothing to do with it. I love you and I always will." I kept the letter, but I didn't respond. Some wounds heal, but they leave scars, indelible reminders of where you've been. I don't hate my mother anymore, but I also don't need her in my life. I've learned that family isn't just about blood. It's about the people who show up for you, who make you feel valued, and who love you unconditionally. The little girl abandoned at that airport grew up to be strong, successful, and surrounded by people who would never dream of leaving her behind. In a way, my mother did me a favor that day. She showed me what I didn't want to be, and she led me to the family I was truly meant to have. If you've listened to my story, I'm truly grateful. I often wonder, what would you have done in my place? Or have you ever experienced a moment where you realized the family you chose was more real than the one you were born into? Tell me what you think in the comments below. I really want to hear your thoughts and experiences.